Tonight on CFTK-TV News, another death in Terrace occurred because of a train. The PRPA has made some changes to its board, and we'll look at a couple of local candidates running in the upcoming BC election.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslett, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. Another incident in the CN yard brings the need for a pedestrian overpass in Terrace once again into the spotlight. CFTK's Jaylene Matthews has more.
CFTK-TV was on scene yesterday afternoon as fire and police departments attended to what was suspected to be a fatality on the train tracks. At this time, RCMP nor CN Rail have released any details on the incident. This would not be the first time someone has been struck by a train at the CN Rail yard in Terrace. According to CFTK's records, this would make the 7th death by train strike in that rail yard in the past decade. The City of Terrace has been lobbying CN and the provincial government for many years to build a second overpass or a pedestrian overpass in the area. CN did consider it and applied for funding to build an alternative overpass in 2007, but that did not come to fruition. The mayor says it's been an enduring initiative.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing problem in the rail yard, and it's been a bit disappointing that both CN and the provincial government haven't been able to come together to come up with some solutions to cross our tracks. We continue to see rail. We see more and more trains coming through our community, and unfortunately so far there's been no movement on adding any kind of pedestrian overpass or vehicle overpass. And two things that I think are needed in our community. We've been pushing the government to try and work on a solution for pedestrian overpass. The overpass we have currently the walking path is not adequate enough for folks, especially people with mobility issues. And then it's too far to go for some folks, and people decide to take unnecessary risk. And the other problem too is CN needs to work on their fencing and try to make sure that the fencing is in better shape to prevent people from trespassing on their property.
And the idea is still on the table.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that's on our radar always, and we'll continue to advocate the province to try to do better and try to find solutions. And we'll continue to push CN to be a partner in that as well, because it's they're the ones that are coming through our town with all this rail traffic. It's just really tough to hear that these situations happen in our community, and they continue to happen, and it's unfortunate that higher levels of government aren't willing to step up. We see the work that they're doing and the big projects they're doing in communities out around Terrace, and it would be nice if they started to recognize Terrace a bit more. We've had some recognition for sure from the province and things like the RBA, but when I look at things like the federal government building a brand new Heisler Bridge in Kitimat, the feds in the province putting on, between the two of them, I think $140 million into water infrastructure in Prince Rupert. It's a bit disappointing that we're not seeing the higher levels of government looking at our community, as we service both of those two communities, and they need us.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
A recent announcement was made by the Prince Rupert Port Authority disclosing that they would be making some changes to their board of directors. In the announcement, it was said that the president of Velocity Truck Centers in Canada, Rod Graham, was appointed to the board by the federal transport minister, the Honorable Pablo Rodriguez. Graham's appointment was done so that he could replace outgoing board member Franz Jelingi, who had been on the board since 2017 and served as the board's chair since 2019. And while Graham is there to take the vacant spot on the board, it is not currently known who will be the new chair of the board, as that selection will end up taking place sometime within the next few weeks or so. In the upcoming BC provincial election, it was recently confirmed that one of Terrace's city councillors, Sarah Zimmerman, will be joining it for the first time. Zimmerman is the NDP's candidate in the Skeena riding and will join the NDP's 91 other candidates that are all trying to become the representative MLA for their areas. And speaking of the NDP, incumbent Stikine MLA Nathan Cullen is going to be seeking re-election into his riding and expressed his pleasure at being able to work with Sarah in the recent election. The Tecumloops Secwepemc First Nation and Vancouver's Catholic Archdiocese have released the details of a sacred covenant. It lays out next steps as work continues to confirm the existence of possible unmarked graves at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. As CTV's Ben Nesbitt reports, the Archbishop also spoke out against those who deny this painful chapter.
It has been more than 3 years since the Kamloops to Secwepemc announced the discovery of 215 possible unmarked children's graves at the site of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. The First Nation is now weighing whether more intrusive investigative techniques are warranted.
And whether through, that's going to be through the extraction of DNA, exhumation, and or other steps. We know that these are, more intrusive steps, but also of disturbance of remains, may be taken to find that truth.
The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Vancouver has committed to help with that work. At a Wednesday news conference, it shared details of a sacred covenant with the First Nation, which was signed on Easter Sunday. It promises to provide world-renowned experts using the latest technology to assist to Kamloops to Secwepemc investigators.
To help them get the answers to questions that they deserve. We respect that they have so much work to do within their communities, and we stand ready, as always, to follow their lead.
Some have sought to discredit the First Nation in the years since the announcement of the possible unmarked graves, including the head of the Catholic League, one of the largest religious organizations in the United States. It doesn't sit well with Vancouver's Archbishop.
To deny that the residential school system had a negative effect and that many students died while registered at the school, that's just, he's just wrong.
The Kamloops to Secwepemc say not all the details have been made public, and there's a reason for that.
Our investigative findings and our investigative steps are currently being kept confidential to preserve the integrity of the investigation.
The First Nation says further details will be announced when it decides how to proceed with next steps. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next is a look at police trying to solve a potential hate crime. Welcome back. 3 First Nations in BC are calling on the federal government to return a parcel of land to them. It sits within their traditional territory in Surrey, but as CTV's Abigail Turner explains, a farmer who's been growing potatoes for decades would be at risk of losing his family farm.
300 acres of industrial zone land known as Campbell Heights North sits in Surrey.
Look around at our beautiful land that was taken away from us.
The Katzie, Kwantlen, and Semiahmoo First Nations want the land returned back into their names.
We come to you with the request rooted in justice and reconciliation. We ask for the return of a portion of our traditional territory. This request is not about reclaiming the past, but about creating a future where our people can thrive once more.
According to the federal government, the Crown land has been declared as surplus, but the majority of it has been leased to Tyler Happel and his farm for 50 years.
We are not against truth and reconciliation. We believe that it is an important thing here in Canada, but we believe that it should not come at a cost for food security.
According to Happel, the land is extremely fertile and the backbone of local food supply, producing more than 700 million pounds of vegetables per year. His fear? That the trio of First Nations would not keep the crops.
The KKS said, which is they are in it for economic reconciliation, which is absolutely their right. But I also believe that there's a world where that can be worked out and this land is not paved over.
The First Nations could not give a clear answer when asked what they do with the parcel of land, pointing to economic reconciliation.
This is not a conversation about food security or farming and nations. This is a conversation between federal Crown lands and 3 First Nations.
Happel tried to add his land to the Agriculture Land Reserve, but the Agricultural Land Commission concluded it did not have jurisdiction. This is the largest piece of Crown land remaining in the nation's shared territories, returning it to something they say would, quote, move Canada forward. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
Police are hoping that security video will help solve a possible hate crime. They want the public to take a good look at the man who walked up to a synagogue on Oak Street last month and then set it on fire. CTV's St. John Alexander has this story.
Watch the top corner of your screen. A man is seen crossing Oak. He climbs the stairs and is holding something in his hands. It looks like a bottle. Then a burst of light before he reappears, taking off in a hurry. Here's another angle. Again, the top of your screen. He goes up the stairs, then suddenly flames, and he leaves.
It is a very difficult thing to protect your building 24/7 against someone who would be brazen enough to come with gasoline, a lighter fluid, some kind of accelerant, and splash it on your building.
Vancouver police say this is from the night of May 30th, around 10 o'clock, when someone set fire outside the front door of the synagogue at Oak and 19th. Members of the congregation were nearby, saw the flames, and were able to put it out.
We have been gathering evidence, analyzing that evidence in hopes to identify a suspect. We have yet to identify the person responsible for this arson.
So you can see the man was wearing a mask and a ball cap, so he was well covered up. At the same time, police believe someone's going to recognize something about him. The way he walks, his mannerisms.
There is somebody out there who employed this individual. There's somebody out there who may have taught this individual. There may be somebody out there who knows this individual as a neighbor or in some other context.
Also of interest, a beige or silver minivan was around at the time, and police believe whoever was in it could have some useful information.
This act was an act against the civility of our city, and we need your help.
Overall, the damage was minimal, but in the rabbi's words, this act could have turned the synagogue, built in the 1940s, into a pile of cinders. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is set to be made up of some mainly cloudy conditions at a low at 11 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is most likely to get a chance of showers and a low at 12 degrees, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District should see a chance of showers too, but with a low at 5 degrees. On the north coast, the upcoming week should consist of all clouds and rain, plus the high shifting between 16 and 13 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their next week or so is set to also see basically just rain and clouds, while their high bounces from 20 to 18 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them will see a little rain, but mainly mixed sunny and cloudy days, and a high switching from 22 to 19 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, road maintenance work, roadside brushing, construction work, and mowing. Highway 37 has some paving operations, bridge maintenance, roadside brushing, frost heaves, and more maintenance. Highway 37A has some road sweeping, and the Nishka Highway is dealing with some bridge maintenance. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the View of the Province's highway cams. Still to come, AI has been utilized as a firefighting tool recently. Welcome back. When wildfires are burning, time can make all the difference in keeping the flames from destroying homes and infrastructure. But what do decision makers do when hundreds of fires are burning and they have limited resources? Penny Dalfloss now has an exclusive look at the artificial intelligence that is helping experts stay on top of the flames.
At the Provincial Ops Center, these water bombers and all-terrain water pumps are ready to deploy on a moment's notice, but they're not the only tools BC is using to fight wildfires.
What this is showing is the potential on the landscape.
These computers are running parallel AI programs, automating analysis typically done by people, scrutinizing geographic data, weather forecasts, and the type of vegetation in the area.
It takes away a lot of the busy work, and it allows us to get ahead of fire.
Forecasting where and how big a fire could grow. Instead of predicting a dozen fires a day with traditional computer models and manpower, machine learning can run hundreds of scenarios daily.
What it allows us to do is to provide information to decision makers in a more timely manner, and to cover a lot more ground in the province when we're having heavy fire seasons like 2023.
The AI modeling was a pilot program last year which ended up being the most destructive in BC history. The Horse Thief Creek fire threatened Invermere and prompted evacuations.
It's pretty intense fire behavior. The spruce really torches when it goes.
The prediction was catastrophic, so firefighters focused their efforts on the east flank, preventing the worst-case scenario. Having that extra help, especially during a busy wildfire season, is certainly welcome, but ultimately the final decisions about strategy, resource deployment, those all come down to people. Humans still need to double-check the results and decide where to send equipment and personnel after considering various factors.
It's not perfect, and no model is. In fact, we shouldn't expect them to be.
The brass at BC Wildfire Service know these are possibilities, not certainties. But in a field where time can make all the difference,
the whole impetus is to set the clock back so that we have more time to think about what a fire could do,
to try and reduce the risk of the kind of loss and heartache we've already seen too many times. Penny Daflos, CTV News, Kamloops.
The Prime Minister's team is desperate to prevent a crack in one riding from becoming a countrywide collapse in the next general election. The Liberals were defeated earlier this week in a Toronto by-election for a seat the party had held for the past 3 decades. CTV's national correspondent Judy Trid on what changes could come out of this.
A meeting of the country's environment ministers. Conservation is on the agenda, but it's preservation of power that dominates questions.
I know enough about politics that one should be careful by drawing direct links between a by-election and a general election.
But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership is on shaky ground after a Liberal stronghold in Toronto voted Conservative blue for the first time since 1993. Behind the scenes, at least 4 Liberal MPs have told CTV News Trudeau should go, but the public message is different.
I think he's the best place to beat Pierre Poilievre, who, as I've said publicly, is a fake. He doesn't present any concrete vision of Canada that I support. It's a guy full of slogans.
Right now, Liberal policies like new investments in housing and $10 a day daycare aren't landing, and the Prime Minister knows it.
It's clear that I and my entire Liberal team have much more work to do.
But Pierre Poilievre's messages are getting through, especially the promise to get rid of the carbon tax if elected. The Liberals capitulated to anger in Atlantic Canada and paused the tax on home heating oil. Saskatchewan is refusing to collect the tax, but the Environment Minister says there won't be any more exceptions, even with the by-election loss.
I've yet to see a piece of analysis other than slogans by Pierre Poilievre or others that proves that 8 out of 10 families aren't better off.
Liberal strategists say the government needs to look for quick solutions.
Something like bringing down cell phone rates, looking at bank charges, looking at the cost of air travel, looking at things that are average things that people encounter in their day-to-day lives that are making life more uncomfortable.
Whatever measures the Liberals settle on, it has to be tangible, something Canadians can feel and that candidates can point to before heading into the next election, expected 16 months from now. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 0.04 of a cent. The price of gold is up $23.40. Oil is up 84 cents. Natural gas is down 6 cents. Aluminum is up $16. In Toronto, the TSX is up 148.26 points. The Venture Index is up 4.97. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 36.26, and NASDAQ is also up 53.52. Still ahead is a controversy involving a Canucks season ticket holder. Welcome back. A longtime Vancouver Canucks season ticket holder is speaking out. His membership has been revoked because the team believes he is working as a ticket broker. He did admit that he does resell most of his seats, but he is not alone in that endeavor and suspects that the team is only cracking down now because the Canucks have suddenly become a hot ticket again due to their success in this past season. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
Peter Wortman has been a Vancouver Canucks season ticket holder for 33 years.
Would have been my 34th year, but I got an email June 12th about how they're revoking membership.
The team won't allow Wortman to renew his full season membership, which includes access to playoffs, because it claims he's essentially a ticket broker.
I get why they're calling me a ticket reseller, because I do. I mean, one of the season benefits is the ability to resell them on Ticketmaster, but the fees are ridiculous.
So last season, Wortman attended 17 regular season games and sold the rest, including playoffs, through social media.
Brokers were buying my tickets because my pricing, they're making money off of me. You know, like, I don't really care who buys them.
But season ticket holder terms and conditions state selling individual games commercially outside Ticketmaster isn't allowed. So Wortman and others who the Canucks determined have been selling most or all of their seats have had their memberships revoked.
For the fans that have been around for 30, 35 years that have put up with the mediocrity of this organization, now all of a sudden they're looking at it going, geez, all this time, and I'm not getting anything out of it anymore because they don't value me as a season ticket holder.
In a statement, the Canucks said, "Our goal with season ticket memberships is to create a sense of community and allow fans to attend as many games as possible. Restricting ticket brokers from purchasing memberships and tickets will help create the best possible experience for our fans and protect the integrity of our season ticket members." But Wortman believes this is only happening now because the Canucks are suddenly a hot ticket again.
We've been there for years while they've been having issues selling tickets, you know, and we've gutted it out, and all of a sudden we're persona non grata.
They don't really appreciate what the season ticket holders, even if they have to sell off half or 3/4 of their tickets, what have they brought to the table is they've helped them to get to this point right now.
While Wortman is disappointed he's no longer a season ticket holder, he still wants to go to some Canucks games.
I'm torn, you know, and I know deep down, I love going, so, you know, I will probably, but the whole thing sucks.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
BC's Independent Investigations Office says a man arrested in Dawson Creek last week has died from his injuries sustained during the incident, and the watchdog is investigating. The Independent Investigations Office says police in Dawson Creek responded to a report of several people with weapons on June 20th and arrested 3 people upon arrival. The agency says a 4th person was located and arrested near a convenience store shortly afterwards, but the man suffered serious injuries and later died at a hospital. The IIO is asking anyone who witnessed the incident, especially the 5 men seen at the 7-Eleven convenience store during the arrest, to contact the agency's investigators to help with determining what happened. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.